We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our friends at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use the box at sign up for 10 points. And here we go.
Happy Sunday morning to you all. Welcome to the Week 3 NFL Sunday preview on the Sports Box. I am Brian Attard, joined by Tony Quigley and Brian Hess, who's actually risking his life and the safety of those around him as he drives to work on this Sunday morning, holding his phone and driving. Now, that might be against laws, but we advocate safe driving on the Sports Box. But Brian Hess is a professional driver, so he's fine. I think your mic's out, Hess.
Is it?
Hess, can you hear us?
We might have lost him.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to.
I'm telling you, he does have that little, aging Joe Burrow look to him.
Yeah, we can't hear him, so we'll see if we'll try to fix the technical difficulties there.
He just needs a nice cigar, as he's walking out to the championship.
Yeah, we definitely can't hear Hess right now. We'll figure that out. He'll probably be back on. Again, before we get started on Week 3, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at CrowdPlay. Check out the free app. It is totally free to play. Use code THEBOX at sign up. Get 10 free points. It's available on the Apple App Store, Google Play. Give those guys a look. I think you'll really enjoy the app. It's a lot of fun to play. So, Quig, we're into Week 3.
We survived. We survived to Week 3.
I mean, listen, for people that thought we wouldn't get a season off, I mean, we're definitely in the swing of things. You're feeling that fall air.
It was a bloody Sunday, though, last week, Bri.
That it was. A ton of injuries last week, which are going to have an impact on fantasy seasons, full team seasons, the rest of the way. We'll start with what we saw on Thursday night. The Miami Dolphins go to 1-2 with a pretty sound defeat of the Jacksonville Jaguars, 31-13. Everybody's kind of got this Minshew mania, and I think for fantasy guys, like, he hasn't really let you down, but in this game didn't throw a touchdown.
Yeah, he definitely let people down Thursday night. I'll tell you that. They were expecting a big game. I know a lot of people picked him up, wanted to play him against his Dolphins defense, who was hurting a little bit, and complete letdown. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, they've actually played the two better teams so far they've played this year a lot harder than they did in this game. I don't know if that's the Thursday effect or what, but, they hung in there with the Titans a week ago. It was a short rest, obviously, and they did beat Indianapolis. I think the one thing to take out of this game is, James Robinson, who was an afterthought, obviously, for fantasy drafts. I mean, kid could turn out to be one of the undrafted studs, in the following the guys like Arian Foster and things of that nature. I mean, you got to be impressed with what he's done in a short period of time. And in this game, he was their leading rusher, their leading receiver. He did everything for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a pleasant surprise down there in Jacksonville, who is a team that's looking for pleasant surprises all along. When they did play the two teams prior 2 weeks, I think that's the beauty of Minshew Mania, though. You never really know what you get. It's kind of like the Linsanity a few years ago in the NBA. He kind of comes out of nowhere. Very similar to what Ryan Fitzpatrick does too. He might go out there and look like the world beater, put up 5 touchdowns and have some excitement and some character to it. And I think Minshew is sort of in that mold. You never know what you get, buyer beware, but sometimes it is fun to watch. Unfortunately,
well, there's some speculation now, and I was watching. I think Adam Schefter said, maybe we were talking about Tank for Trevor, and if you're on the Jaguars, you're not really caring about Tank for Trevor. You're trying to get a new contract, win games. Like, you're not really thinking about that.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned. I think we talked about last week a little bit. That these guys are out here trying to get their paycheck. They're trying to impress. I mean, guys like you mentioned, James Robinson, Minshew. They have a bunch of receivers. They're trying to draw heads. They're trying to make money. They're trying to, maintain a career. They're not worried about Trevor Lawrence and what's going on in Clemson or Justin Fields, if he's going to play at Ohio State and that kind of stuff. They're looking to eat now, and they want their paycheck.
And it's an interesting point from Ryan Leach, that he's a solid NFL backup. He's not a starter, but he'll make them win just enough not to get a good draft pick. And all the talk right now, again, it is that tank for Trevor. I know the guys on Sweet Tea, our new show on Friday night, we're talking about where he might go. I'm starting to get into the camp where I think he ends up in New York. I'm not sure which team, but I'll play the odds. It's one of those two.
I'm a big college guy too, and I know Justin Fields is climbing up him very quickly. So the whole tank for Trevor, I think, obviously he's the front runner to go number 1 overall, but Justin Fields, the improvement he's made since he's been to Ohio State, and you got to give that staff, a world of credit. It's not a lock that just because you get the number 1 pick, it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. So, you have to put Justin Fields out there, especially if he excels.
Well, I again, you're a bigger college guy than I, but there's been nothing that I've seen that would indicate he wouldn't go number 1 at this point. I mean, I don't even think if Fields has this stellar season that it's going to matter. I mean, I really think that.
Well, let's rewind.
It's his spot to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's rewind to last year. No one had Joe Burrow as the number 1 pick. Now the kid looks phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, life comes at you fast sometimes, And, if the Big Ten decided not to play football this year, I think that it would have to go Trevor Lawrence as a lock if he, performs anyway. But now that Justin Fields is back on the field, it's going to be an interesting race for that number 1 pick. And whether it's Jacksonville or one of the New York teams, I think they're both in position to actually, a great position to land a top pick.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think here too, Joe Rickson, who we had on for the Jets preview, he said Joe Douglas, if he got that pick, might trade down for a big O-line guy. And listen, he's a big O-line guy. I mean, the thing is this, man. I mean, stability matters, I mean, you think back to the career of a guy like Jason Campbell, who was in Washington, kind of thrown around with different coordinators, different coaches. I mean, you're never going to know what he could have been if there was any kind of adequate coaching, adequate stability. Same thing for a guy like Josh Rosen. The talent was there. So yeah, I mean, from a Jets standpoint, I know we're kind of getting away from Thursday night, but if you get that pick, Gase goes. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's sayonara for Darnold, but I mean, I wouldn't give up on the kid. I mean, I know it's hard. It's a hard thing at that spot because you trade up to get a guy, but the guys who drafted that player are no longer there. There's no commitment to that player.
Right. There's no loyalty at all. I think that's I think we mentioned that when we're talking about the Browns too, with Freddie Kitchen and Baker Mayfield. Sure. To what Ryan said, as far as, not to get a good draft pick, the Jaguars are going to get a good draft pick. Is it going to be a top 1 or 2 pick? Maybe not, but still they're going to get a quality draft pick. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how that works out. I love Emilio's comment, who, a kid who's overlooked. Like we said, this time last year, we weren't talking about anything. Emilio is a big Miami Hurricanes fan, and they looked phenomenal last night, friggin' boat race and rival FSU off the field. De'Aaron King, De'Aaron King in this new college format has an opportunity to boost his draft stock tremendously. If you look at the guys who are kind of the new age quarterback, it's changed. Kyle Murray, Lamar Jackson. These mobile quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, if we're naming the top quarterbacks in the league, they're all mobile quarterbacks. It's not these standstill guys. And Derek King is one of those guys who could run the ball, and I think it's a combination of, the changing in the offense a little bit. It has a lot to do with the changing of the rules in the NFL as far as secondary, because in times past, guys who were run, they were a little bit less accurate. But now with the defensive changing, I mean, there's inaccurate quarterbacks that are, almost hitting 70% of their passes. So, it's a change too. And Derek King definitely falls into that scope.
Garth Patrick, one of our hosts on Sweet Tea, check that show on Fridays. One guy might come around would be Kyle Trask, very Joe Burrow-esque week 1, 416 and 6 touchdowns. Well, I mean, college can inflate some numbers depending who you're playing. Yeah,
I mean, he can. Plus, he has a stud tight end that reminds me a lot of Darren Waller in Pitts. He's 6'6". He had most of those yards and I think half of those touchdowns. So, I mean, Trask is another thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, these kids are coming out all over, and I do think Trevor Lawrence is the clear front runner. Justin Fields is going to be that 1A pick by the time it's all said and done, but there could be a dark horse coming out there too, because let's not forget Trey Lance. I know Carson Wentz fans, if there's any of them out there left. Trey Lance is another kid who went to North Dakota like him. He has all the measurables. He should put on a show, and you might see his name skyrocket up draft boards too. So, I mean, it's not a bad year for a team looking for a quarterback. So I think Jaguars are fine.
Yeah. So a team that took a quarterback last year is the Miami Dolphins, and I think the question now, you fall to 1-2. You go to 1-2.
They gain the 1-2. Yeah.
Yeah. Is when does Tua start? So, I mean, to me, this was never a year where he wasn't going to play. I'm going to load up their schedule here from their website. And, obviously, starting in October, you're going to get Seattle, San Francisco. Those are a couple tough not Seattle anymore. I don't know when he should start, Tone, but I think it better be somewhat quickly. I mean, I'd like to see what the kid does in his rookie season before, it gets too far in.
Well, let me ask you this, Brian. Do you think the Dolphins are in the mentality where they think they're eliminated from the AFC East? I'm sorry. I think they're still contenders to be in the mix. I mean, the Jets are clearly poor.
Yep.
There's not much talent around them, but I think, that Miami team might not, convince themselves. You do scroll by your schedule a little bit. I mean, obviously they shouldn't beat Seattle. At San Fran is looking a little bit easier now that their entire defensive line. Broncos is a winnable game, even though it's at Denver. Chargers is a winnable game. Rams probably lost, but Arizona's probably lost. The Jets they beat twice. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's a weird schedule.
Actually kind of 3 bye weeks in a row in November.
Exactly. So if you're looking at week 12, they have 1 week, so they're guaranteed, a few weeks. The Bengals, I mean, I think it might be a little bit too early for Miami to pack it in, especially since they already have their QB of the future, and there's no rush right now.
I don't know. I mean, for me, I'd just like to see what I have in the kid. I mean, I just, you pick I'm a big proponent of putting these quarterbacks in there when you draft them, especially because you only have so much time with them before that rookie deal is up. Not that I think the Dolphins are a contender, obviously, but you got to know what you've got. I mean, we've now seen a team draft a quarterback in the first round and draft another one a year later. I mean, there is some precedent there, despite the fact that I think that's a horrible use of draft capital. It is what it is. I mean, there is a precedent there to do it.
Well, let's not forget, Brian, the difference between Justin Herbert and Tua. Tua came in with injury concerns, and I think there's a lot. Let's be careful. Let's not rush him out there. Make sure he's healthy. Make sure he can take a couple hits when they're allowed to actually hit in practice again and see. Because I think it's more of a long term, with Tua than. And the same thing, Justin Herbert got catapulted into the lineup. It's not like he went out there, earned it,
That's true.
Anthony Lynn's love affair with Tyrod Taylor for whatever reason. So, I mean, without that, a shady doctor, I think he was probably one of Justin Herbert's family maybe or something like that, he's probably still on the sideline as well.
Question for you. We're going to do two sides of this.
Yeah.
Of the teams that are 0-2, which do you feel are in the best position to still find their way into the playoffs, if any?
Well, I think one team that jumps out immediately would be the Eagles. As crazy as it is, as the sky is falling here in the Philadelphia area, and their fan base is all, scoured like a bunch of cockroaches that they are once their team goes bad. As you see here, we don't have any Eagles hosts on. Half our team is Eagles hosts, and where are the Eagles hosts? All of a sudden they're all in church, or they have something to do on Sunday, and they're not even watching the team, and blah blah blah. So I mean, the cockroaches that they are. I mean, hey, listen, I went through a 1-15 season with my team, and I always can't say you stand tall, but you survive it, and you're always here. So, but if you look at the division, I mean, the NFC East, as we said it's still up for grabs. I mean, it's a bad division. I mean, the Cowboys got a miracle win. They probably should be on this list too. So I think the Eagles jump out as the number one team. The Falcons offense maybe, but the defense is a joke. The Vikings is just a complete mess right now. I don't see another team besides the Eagles having a shot, and that's just because of how putrid the rest of the division is.
Sure. Jets no, Bengals no, Texans. I think their schedule is just. I mean, we said it before the season. I think that they're just in between a rock and a hard place. I mean, I don't like their roster very much. I know Mike Ralston is a little as a fan, he's a little more bullish, I guess, than I on that. Denver's got injury.
They don't have playmakers. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no playmakers besides Deshaun Watson on that team. I mean, you're not throwing the ball to Will Fuller 10 times a game and expecting him to do DeAndre Hopkins-like things, Brandon Cook. I mean, there's nobody on offense to do playmakers, and the defense just simply isn't good enough to compete.
Yeah. Broncos got injuries. Giants look like – I mean, they haven't played terribly, but I don't think that – Lions, no. Minnesota, again, I think the talent's there to get to 9-7 still. I don't think Atlanta can. I don't think Carolina can. I agree with you with the Eagles.
Defense together quick, man.
I'll agree with you with the Eagles because I think that they have the easiest road to get in if they choose to. They may not take it because they have their own issues. I think it's a very old roster, frankly. I think it needs a heavy retooling in many positions. But, Dallas has played Dallas is lucky to be 1-1. I mean, I don't think I'm breaking the internet to say that. And I mean, by the end of today, they could easily be in a tie for first place. So, they're probably, I think, of the teams that are there, clearly the lead. But other than them, I would probably say Minnesota.
Yeah, because we've seen Minnesota do it before. If they get that running game going, you have Kirk Cousins, good or bad. Sometimes, you can't see. But that secondary, they have to get some kind of miracle pill to make it work. Because if not, there are problems. But I think they would be my solid number 2 choice as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that are 0-2 for a reason. I guess we'll put it that way. On the flip side of that, so of the teams that have started off hot and that are 2-0, the teams that you feel are at the most risk of missing the playoffs. And the list is there: Buffalo, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Tennessee, KC, Vegas, Green Bay, Chicago, Arizona, Rams, and Seattle.
Let me see who we got here. Missing the playoffs. Well, first of all, the Bears might be the worst 2-0 team that I've seen in a long time. Slot smoke and mirrors. Sorry, Meads. Meads is my boy, but I have to say that. Raiders have a tough game going into Foxborough today, so they're going to struggle to overcome anything in that division. Trying to think who else we got here: Titans, Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals. Well, with there's 3 teams in the NFC West that are 2-0. It's going to be hard for both of them, all 3 of them to make the team. You were very strong on the Cardinals this year. I had big questions about their defense. I mean, I think with the 49ers injuries right now, it's going to help them out a lot, especially. But I'm still going to stay with my pick, is thinking that it's probably going to be the Bears that are left out. Raiders are left out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, of this, I think a couple that you can pretty much just pencil in right now. Again, Buffalo's going to get in, I think, by default. Now, I'm not saying they win the division, by the way. I'm not yet on that. I'm not ruling it out, obviously. But I think Patriots' demise is too early to say, especially with Cam playing as good as he is. And I'm not a Cam guy. I'm a vocal, not Cam guy. Ravens are in. Steelers are in. Tennessee, I don't know. I go back and forth on Tennessee. But obviously the Chiefs are in. To me, I think the obvious ones would be the Raiders for 1, would be the Bears for 2. And then I said before the year, it wouldn't shock me if 3 teams out of the NFC West made the playoffs, but I thought one of those teams would be San Francisco. I thought the Rams would be the team that fell off. I don't know now. I mean,
I think the Rams have a tough game today, in Buffalo, obviously. I mean, if you look at one of the things that, I think it hurts 2 teams in the NFC West right now. It's the 49ers and the Rams. Is the 49ers back-to-back East Coast, West Coast games, last year. I mean, last week and this week they're back on the East Coast, actually in the same stadium with, the House of Horrors. And the Rams, they were in Philly, last week, and now they're in Buffalo this week. And that's a tough schedule. So I expect them to maybe take a step back. And the one thing the 49ers need to be thankful for is that they're not seizing any injuries on the offensive side of the ball, because if they can control that power running game, there's enough talent still on defense where if they could get it together, they could make a playoff push.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a rhetorical question. I mean,
bringing the heat today.
Yeah, Meads is on fire.
Love it.
Yeah, I think a lot of those 2-0 teams are there for a reason. So I mean, they've
He's
heard.
you, buddy. I know you're a basketball guy, old school.
They've
I just realized I had the wrong shirt on for the wrong show, but there you go. Run TMC action.
We're on all the time. Sports Box is getting bigger and bigger. We obviously love to see that. So we'll start with two teams that played in prime time last Sunday night. The Raiders 2-0 cross country to go to Massachusetts to meet the 1-1 New England Patriots. Pats are laying 6.5. The over under here is 47. As I mentioned, I said before the season, Cam Newton's got a lot to play for, because if you can't win with Bill Belichick, you can't win. And he's played well so far. I have to give him full credit. Bill has done something that, frankly, I think Doug Peterson hasn't done, and that's tailor an offense to the strengths that your team has. I hear a lot from the Eagle guys that, Jalen Hurts might fit the offense better than what they want to do. Yeah, that's great. How about you just tailor your offense to meet the strengths that you have and do what's best for you? Bill Belichick hasn't had a running quarterback in 2 decades, but he's doing it now, and he's making the offense work. So you got to give Cam full credit. I don't think anybody thought that they would look as good as they have so far, despite the fact that they've played, a Miami team, which is in a rebuild, and a susceptible defense in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, let's give Josh McDaniels the credit too. There, with that offense. I mean, Belichick never had a running quarterback, and Josh McDaniels, he's pulling out all the stops. The issue with the Patriots, which I'm a little concerned about, is where are their offensive weapons besides Cam? He carried the ball a lot in Seattle, which we're definitely worried about. He's the most hit quarterback in the history of the NFL. I believe that's a stat that I've seen. No quarterback has been taking more hits than Cam Newton in the NFL history. So that's one major concern there. And Edelman's banged up, N'Keal Harry's banged up. Where does the offense come from? Because Cam just trying to run around and be Cam like he's 27 years old again isn't going to work long term. McDaniels has done a really nice job. It's kind of funny to being in Seattle, and maybe they should have thrown it from the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
But it was just a great game. That game showed me a little bit more about Seattle's defense than it did show me about Cam and New England's offense. Now, as it implies to this Raiders game, I think that line's a little bit high. I mean, that's 6.5. I mean, everybody's picking the Patriots too. I don't know if they're just drunk off the Belichick Kool-Aid. They're worried about the injuries that the Raiders had. I mean, let's not forget the Raiders beat a very good Saints team with a quarterback who can't throw the ball past 20 yards. But at the same time, can Cam throw the ball past 20 yards with any accuracy?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And their offensive line is running into issues now too. I believe it was their center who's going to be missing some time, as well as a linebacker on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, well, the Patriots lost their center, but the Raiders lost their starting tackle and guard too. So I mean, it's a bloodbath in the NFL right now. So it's kind of like who has the deeper bench, who has the deeper roster. I think this game's going to be a close game. Henry Ruggs is out today, so I think that removes the vertical threat and I think I'll take the Pats in a very close game. But if look at this guy taking the Pats, Bills reverse. You want to go on reverses?
We've had this. Listen, all I said. This is all I said. It's become this big thing with the guys. Is I said that it is not correct to say that a reverse pays you 4 times your bet. That's all.
Okay.
It doesn't, because a $25 reverse is a $50 risk if you lose both ends plus the juice. So
6.5 really is a Raiders line too, to be honest with you. I mean, when they try to dangle that in front of you, that 6.5, so you take that 7. But if the Raiders win if the Patriots win by 7, I wouldn't be surprised. But if I had to bet the game, which I'm not, I'll take the Raiders with the 6.5. But heads up, I think the Patriots win the game.
I think the Patriots win the game as well. I think that was it was a gutsy win by the Raiders at home against the Saints. I don't think a lot of people thought they would have a chance in that game. And again, they're playing well right now against a couple of NFC South teams in Carolina and the home game against the Saints. And, Josh Jacobs, I mean, look, I'm never an advocate of putting a first-round pick into a running back. They did have 3 that year. Give the kid full marks. I mean, he's doing everything for them. And Darren Waller, people that thought that he might have a bit of a decline this season, he's clearly the focal point of their offense through the air right now.
Yeah, he came in this season as their number 1 receiver. I mean, anybody is fooling themselves to think that Henry Ruggs is going to go in there and be the number 1. I mean, so Waller is, that main receiving target. The other thing, though, is with Josh Jacobs is a phenomenal runner, phenomenal talent. I love him, but is he going to survive Gruden? I mean, is he going to pull a Cadillac Williams and just get ran into the ground like he did with him in Tampa Bay? He's banged up. I don't know the extent of the injury. I know he left last week's game, so if he has to leave the game today, that really is a big slap for the Raiders.
Sure.
The Las Vegas, Oakland, wherever the hell they're at, Raiders.
LA. Phil DeMore wants to know Rivers or Watson today.
That's a tough one because the Watson that Pittsburgh D did not impress as I thought they would last week. I mean, we thought they were just going to whitewash them, and it didn't. But I'll take this is a thing where I would actually look at matchup wise because I think Rivers is the more solid play, but obviously Watson has the higher ceiling. That defense, they might have to be forced into a shootout. So I mean, Rivers might throw 250, 2 touchdowns. I could see that both to Mo Alley Cox, who was quickly one of my favorite players in the NFL. But you also invested a high draft pick for Watson for a reason, so I might have to just roll him out there.
I feel as though, I mean, we'll talk about these games, obviously. I think Watson's got a much tougher defense to play. That's probably the best front seven in football on the road. And Rivers, the problem with him is I think they're gonna smack the Jets around, but second half they might be running the clock to get the hell out of there. Because I think that it might be that far apart. So I think it's tough. I think you got to go Deshaun because if they're going to score anything, I think it's going to go through him.
Yeah, especially if rushing touchdowns are more than passing touchdowns. In some leagues they are, some leagues they're even. So
Anthony will enjoy this one. The 2-0 Chicago Bears visit the 0-2 Atlanta Falcons and still find themselves as the underdog. Falcons -3. The over-under is 47 here. Falcons, I mean, listen, the Falcons have a coaching problem. And I know that they have a coaching problem because when you watch this play, you're staring at a football, okay? And you should know by playing football your entire life, and if nothing else, your coach should tell you, hey, asshole, you don't have to wait 10 yards to pick the ball up. This is the only reason the Cowboys are 1-1 right now. They should be 0-2. And you see the hat that I'm wearing. But to be fair, Dan Quinn's got to go. And if this is not an example of why, I don't know what else could possibly be. This team has let up so many massive leads that's just not even normal.
Well, every week we talk about Dan Quinn should be fired, and every week it's the same answer for me. Howard Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, does not care about winning. If you look at what he did to his team just to acquire the Super Bowl a few years ago.
I got breaking news.
We have breaking news here on the Sports Box.
And it's about the game we're talking about. Julio Jones is inactive today.
Yeah, I was. He stole some of my thunder. I was just about to mention that while I was talking. Nice, but yeah, I mean, we kind of expected that all week. Julio was a little gimpy with that hamstring. I don't. With Ridley and Russell and Gage and them guys, I think they're going to be fine. I mean, it's a player taking out a player like Julio in Atlanta, but I really don't know if that really changed much in this game, to be honest with you. If you look at the spread, I don't think it moved much at all. Can the Bears score enough with Atlanta? I mean, because that seems what it needs to be doing. And speaking of Julio Jones, he might be heartbroken because if he just catches that touchdown last week, they also win too. So, I mean, he pretty much just dropped it. I'm taking Atlanta to win outright. I'll take Atlanta to cover. I'll never take the Bears on the road.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with my fantasy teams now because I have them on 2 teams. I kind of thought this might be a very strong possibility as well.
So while you're figuring it out, let's mention something too. There's a big question if this game was even going to get played. I mean, AJ Terrell tested positive for COVID.
Yeah. So
this is our first instance where COVID has affected the NFL game. Seems like there wasn't any other positive test, and they do tracing and stuff like that. But it's an interesting way we get to see how the NFL does handle the COVID situation, and it looks like there's no problem at all. So just next man up for them.
Anthony Medio, bad spot for the Bears. Atlanta is the team. Bears have to run the ball heavily. He likes Atlanta. This is on Nagy to have to call a good game. Well, I wouldn't trust Matt Nagy to coach his way out of a paper bag right now, so I don't necessarily know that that's something I'd like to worry.
Plus, he has Trubisky throwing the ball too. So let's Trubisky has to play well. Nagy has to call a good game. You're trying to turn two negatives into a positive, which is tough. And the fact that they're 2-0 is insane.
It really is. They're just. I think the schedules help them, but I think that the fact that the Lions stink has helped them more than anything else. They should have. The Giants had a chance to win that game, but the Bears should not be 2-0. Well,
DeAndre Swift dropped the ball. Saquon Barkley gets out for the game on a horrible injury. It's we can't. The Bears are 2-0 by default. I can't say anything else.
Which is why, again, we've said that they're probably the team that's most susceptible to missing the playoffs because their 2-0 is the least impressive 2-0 of the bunch. I think pretty handily. Me personally.
Yeah. As we just discussed a little bit ago. So yeah, it's I think it's Atlanta rather easily actually. Yep. I
agree. Another 0-2, 2-0 matchup, but in this case, 2-0 is favored as Houston takes their 0-2 record to Heinz Field to play the 2-0 Pittsburgh Steelers, who are laying 4, and the over-under is 46, and Anthony's had just enough of this anti-Bears talk. So, listen, I think specifically, I said Houston's going to have a rough year. It's playing out that way. I thought Pittsburgh was a playoff team. It's playing out that way. They struggled a little more with Denver last week than I thought that they would, and that did cost me some money. But you got to be pretty happy with what you see out of the passing attack for Pittsburgh, and the rushing attack should figure it out at some point. I know James Conner's pissing me off.
That was weird last week while you're on Conner because they came out prior to the game and said him and Snell are splitting the carries 50-50. And then there was no word, rhyme, reason. You couldn't even find Benny Snell on a milk carton last week. So, not much information out there that led us astray to that James Conner. And he actually played pretty well. He looked good.
Yeah, I was just, I sat him. I don't necessarily regret it. Because I didn't really feel comfortable with the play. But
well, yeah. Listen, the last time you seen Conner on the field, he was hurt. Then you go into the game that you have Ian Rappaport and all these other talking heads that are more qualified than me and you saying that it's going to be a 50-50 split. So how do you play the guy? And Benny Snell looked a lot better. So, any owner that sat him last week, it sucks that production, but I think that is a better omen for what's moving forward. Until he gets hurt again, which is inevitable.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. He fell to the 3rd round, 4th round in fantasy drafts for a reason. I don't think that was an accident. But in a game like this, if you're Houston, you're staring 0-3 in the face. And to be fair, this has been a brutal schedule to start for them. They get the Chiefs and the Ravens to start, which is
what we said last week. It was the first time that there was ever a team face back-to-back MVPs to start the season.
Yeah.
Houston. Houston. There's plenty of problems down there. I think this game really, though, you're going to see a big test for Steelers D that we thought might have been the best after week 1 in the league. Then they struggle with the Denver team that was moving the ball with a backup quarterback. So what Steelers defense are we going to see? How are they going to perform against, a much better offense than Denver? I'm trying to think who Steelers play week 1?
Giants.
A better offense than the Giants, even though Saquon Barkley is the more dominant, dynamic player that they face. But so I think this is a test to see actually, if the Steelers defense is the real deal, and if they are the real deal, they need to hold them to 14 to 17 points and make short work of that struggling secondary that Houston has. Deontay Johnson, Juju Schuster-Smith, these guys should have big games.
I agree. I don't see any way that Houston wins this game. Could they cover the 4? Maybe, but I don't think I don't see Houston win this game. I think that, like I said, I'm sticking by my call that Houston's going to be rather terrible this year. These two teams are 0-2, but Cincinnati should be at least 1-1. Kicker problem. Eagles should be at least 1-1. You blew a lead. But here we are.
lead? 17?
17.
17-point lead you guys blow. Nice.
Playing your best Atlanta card, right? So, Eagles -4.5, over under 46.5. I mean, listen, we said this. I'm going to load this up while I'm talking, but we said this on the show on Tuesday that this is the easiest game the Eagles will have for the next month because, and it's taking me a second to load this up, their next 3 games, we talk about Houston running through a bit of a gauntlet. The next couple games for the Eagles are also a gauntlet. And that's a problem because they very conceivably, and as soon as this thing, I'm going through ESPN's website to get to the schedule, they could absolutely, even if they win this game, be 1-5. And I'm going to share screen to load this up. And Tony, I need you, and again, obviously neither of us are fans of this team, but when you look at this team's upcoming games, you have at San Francisco, at Pittsburgh, hosting Baltimore. If you slip up here, you're 0-6, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, I hate to say must-win games this early in the season, but 0-3 right now. I mean, this is an area where, like we say, they get down on their team quick, and you might see, calling for even Doug Peterson's head, and definitely they're already calling for Carson Wentz's head. So, if they lose today against a rookie quarterback, which may happen, I mean, it's not any given that they win this game. At San Fran, you're gonna have Kittle back. You might have Garoppolo back. At Pittsburgh, we know what that is, and Baltimore is just going to run right through them. So yeah, it's going to be very dark in Philly, and like I said, all the cockroach Eagles hosts that we have here as fans, you might not see them back on the air.
Look, the Bengals have lost the 2 games by a combined 8 points. They should have won. They should have at least got to overtime in the first one. You never know where that could have gone from there. And they did put up 30 points on the Browns. So from the standpoint of my phone is ringing. That's okay. I can't take that call. From the standpoint of who's played better, I think it's hard to say that it hasn't been Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati definitely looks better. I mean, Joe Burrow looked phenomenal the other night. I mean, we talked about that. We just had to drive the ball downfield. Last week, a lot of people were talking about the Eagles secondary. I mean, their linebacking core, their nickel linebacker. Their nickel cornerback, Vonnie Maddox inside the slot, and blah blah blah. And listen, they got toasted by the Cooper Kupp. They're going to get toasted today by Tyler Boyd. I think Darius Slay is going to be manned up on. Darius Slay is going to be manned up on AJ Green, so he's going to take him out of the question. So I think when it's all said and done, I mean, I love the over in this game. I think it was sitting at 46.5, 47 right now. I think I don't have much faith in either defense, and let's see how Joe Cool and see what he does throwing the rock against the Eagles. But this is a Carson Wentz. You better step up, and be that top pick that you want.
You can't sit Josh Jacobs. He is active. So is Darren Waller. That was just reported.
Yeah.
You can't bench Josh Jacobs. And Kane Beal, I think Joe Burrow is a quarterback for the next 15 years. And I've seen nothing in the first 2 games to make me think opposite. I really do believe that you can tell in a lot of cases, what you have in a quarterback pretty early. He's played very, very well, as he should at being the number 1 pick. So no, he is the cornerstone for this team. I mean, I can't.
Joe Burrow has that it factor when you're looking for a leader, when you're looking for your franchise quarterback. I'm not going to compare him to Dak, but one thing Dak does have is that it factor that, he has good leadership qualities and stuff like that. And that's what kind of excelled, at Mississippi State for him. So I think Burrow is under that same vein where, but he has just so much more arm talent. I mean, it's just phenomenal to watch the kid play. He struggled when he was at Ohio State in that offense. Went to LSU, figured stuff out a little bit, and now he looks phenomenal in the NFL. I think if guys like AJ Green helped him out and made a difficult catch every now and then, like you said, they'd easily be 2-0 or at least 1-1.
Anthony says a little sprinkle on the Bengals. I may have suggested that on Tuesday. Joe DeAngelo, Dallas wins division 8-8, 7-9. 7-9 might be tough to win, but I think 8-8. I mean, again, if everybody else falls apart, they win it by default. I'll take that all day long. For sure.
Yeah, because they already have that one win now, and you have the Eagles twice, you have the Giants twice, you have the Redskins twice. So that's 6 right there if everything plays out. So. And
Jason, we'll be getting into the Dallas game in just a little bit. We're doing the 1:00 games right now. Listen, if the Eagles don't win this game, listen, I'm going to smile from ear to ear and laugh my ass off, but I can't see that. So I'm going to take the Eagles to win the game. Spread wise, don't know, but they can't lose this game at home. They just can't. And if they do,
yeah, if we got any bettors out there, prop bet I like on this one is Miles Sanders over 26.5 receiving yards, and I like Joe Burrow over 83.5 combined yards, which I think is way too low against the Eagles defense. That's putrid.
Joe Burrow, 83 yards?
No. Did I say Joe Burrow?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Joe Mixon, 83 combined rushing and receiving.
I would agree with that. Yeah, so, I was going to say that'd be.
I think the 46 is low, and I think there's going to be points.
I don't disagree with you at all. The 49ers are getting used to the scene in New Jersey as they are back this week to face a 0-2 New York Giants team. Niners minus 3.5. And then when you talk about team, and both of these teams had major injuries last week. The Giants on the more quality side, as Saquon Barkley's going to miss the season. They went ahead and signed Devontae Freeman, the former Falcon. That'll be an interesting running game today. But the Niners, a couple big time injuries. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo's going to miss this game. He's not out for the year, but Nick Bosa is. For a team that's coming off a Super Bowl appearance, I don't know now if they have enough in the tank. I mean, that's a very deep defense, but you're missing now with Solomon Thomas as well. Some really elite guys that you count on. I don't know what that means for them.
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers have a pretty easy recipe. That's run the ball, play defense, right? Work their stud tight end, Kittle, up the middle and go from there. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's been one of the oldest and truest forms. Run and play defense. That's how you win in the game. But that being said, I think Nick Mullins has enough to get it done. I mean, if he plays well, obviously Jimmy G has that job, but they're high on Mullins out there in 49ers country. So I do like the 49ers to win a close game. It's just. The Giants' defense is really non-existent, and their offense can with no Saquon Barkley. I mean, can they really generate something with Devontae Freeman, who came out today and said that he's going to be their primary back? I mean, you come off the streets and now you're the primary back, and you're going to beat a playoff team that was in the Super Bowl last year. This game's just a mess. So I'll take 49ers in a close one.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, I can't see the Giants winning the game, but to be fair, I mean, I thought they played better against the Steelers than I thought they would, and that was a very winnable game last week in Chicago. So it's not as if their 0-2 is more indicative of this team sucks. I mean, they're probably actually further along. Having said that, Saquon's such a huge piece, and it's center point of your offense. I mean, again, we can have this conversation about running backs in the first round. I'm going to skip that right now, but. It's going to be hard for them. I mean, Daniel Jones better figure this out and quick. And not that he's played terribly, but they better be throwing the ball a lot. Evan Ingram, I think, has been a disappointment so far for them. All you heard was how it was going to be a 1,000-yard season for him.
Is that on a loop from last year or the year before? He's the guy. He has all the tools to be a quality NFL tight end, receiving wise at least, and he just doesn't do it. He just doesn't put up the numbers, and he'll be fool's gold. He might go for $120 and 2 touchdowns, and then he might not do anything for the next 3 weeks. So
yeah, if not a guy who I think you can count on week to week, especially for fantasy. Niners win this game. I mean, it might be a field goal. That hook might catch you. So if you're taking the Niners, I would buy that hook.
Yes, buying hooks. Please buy the hook if you can, because I had this conversation the other day about buying hooks, man. You put in a 2-3 team parlay, fucking around trying to get some good odds, and you have that hook hanging out there, I guarantee you that's what destroys your parlay. Absolutely. So buy the hook.
No question about it. Next up in Buffalo, we talked about this game in the open, a tough game as the Rams are 1-point underdogs at the Buffalo Bills, both teams 2-0, over-under 46.5. I will tell you, in my opinion, that I think that the Rams wins have been a little more impressive than the Bills wins because the Bills beat down some pretty below average, I'll say it nicely, AFC East teams, while the Rams took down the two best teams, whether you think either of them are any good, the two best teams in the NFC East. Rams go on the road today to Buffalo. Let's see what they got.
Yeah, I think this is a game right here where it's going to be another close one. Look, I mean, the line is -1. Injuries have been piling up a little bit, but I think the Bills are getting healthier. They're getting their linebacker back. His name escaped me right now. So I think, and you have two of the premier corners matching up with Jalen Ramsey and Tre'Davious White too. So it's like you're going to see a tough game. Listen, Goff looks good. No doubt about it. Whether he played against the Eagles, he's making the right decisions, he's making the right throws, or the Cowboys. I mean, he looks good. Allen is out there making plays left and right. Stephon Diggs, I think he's first or second in yards. So, I mean, they have the home run threat. I mean, it's going to be what quarterback makes the less mistakes and what defense steps up. And I think Goff makes less mistakes than Allen because he still will get a tendency to get erratic. But I'm going to take the Bills defense to actually step up and slow them down.
Is Stephon Diggs a sell high in fantasy right now? I don't think you're going to get better than this.
Yes and no, because first of all, yeah, he's a sell high, but they still play the Jets again. They still play the bad teams again. So he's going to have some very favorable matchups. If you're looking down his schedule, so it's a sell high. He might disappear today. I think his over under for yards was about 65, which I could, with him that's one catch. But if he has Jalen Ramsey shadowing him or anything like that, I'm not sure. But at the same time, is John Brown healthy? Is he going to play? I didn't get that update yet, but he takes some pressure off of Diggs with his ability to stretch the field too. So
I believe John Brown is active. I've seen that. Yeah.
Well, a lot of these guys are active, but they're banged up too. So
that's true.
Yes.
Jason Rob's offensive line looking good right now. Joe DeAngelis to take the Bills. Travel catches up with the Rams. That's possible.
Yeah, we mentioned that earlier.
Here's a great question from someone that looks like me and talks like me. Who would you start? Frank Gore, Wayne Gallman, KJ Hamler, Chase Claypool, or Michael Pittman? Probably it's a Julio situation being out.
I just put the gun in my mouth now. Mm-hmm. Sneaky play. Who's Hamler got? I forget.
Bucks.
I'd go Hamler. KJ Hamler. Courtland Sutton's out. Jerry Jeudy is banged up with a rib injury, although he might play. Gallman, with the report that Freeman's going to get all this work, I mean, I think Deion Lewis is their back. That's going to be doing much to the receiving, so that kind of leaves Gallman out. Gore. Oh my God! Listen,
hey,
if you're looking for a big game and some home runs, Claypool might be the guy that could, against that Houston secondary. I think matchup wise, he might have the best matchup. I don't have faith in Pittman yet, so I'd probably go Hamler, Claypool, and then swing for the fences with Pittman.
Okay, I gotta make a decision in the next hour, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah. It's just one of them things when you're debating between Hamler and Claypool. Claypool's competing for touches with Schuster Smith. He's competing touches with Deontay Johnson. Ebron's still there. I mean, Claypool looks good, but Hamler is the number 2 there right now, and the number 1's banged up.
As far as this game goes, again, I was not a believer in the Rams. I thought they'd miss the playoffs. I still think that's possible, especially in a tough division. They have not missed Todd Gurley. Didn't think that they would, frankly. But listen, Goff's playing well. They're highly paid receivers who got big checks are playing well. But this is a different team than I think that they've played. This will be their biggest pushback, in my opinion. Not that I think the Bills are better than Dallas from a talent standpoint, but Dallas had that game on the road. This is in Buffalo. I lean the Bills in this game. And really that kind of comes down to Josh Allen, because I think they're going to have to score. I don't know the over under. I mean, I lean a little bit towards the over, I think by default, because I think both these teams are going to have to score. Although Zach Moss is going to miss the game. So a lot of Devin Singletary.
Zach Moss is out, and so you just mentioned real quick about Devin Singletary. I think the key to this game is we're talking a lot about the quarterbacks and everything like that. The key is going to be what team can actually effectively run the ball, because if they could get Brown and they could get Darrell Henderson Jr. effectively running the ball behind that improved offensive line, as you mentioned. I mean, listen, Whitworth looks like amazing out there. You found some fountain of youth or something like that. But whatever team can establish the runs and make things easier on their quarterbacks who have been mistake prone, over the last few seasons, I think that's where the key is. And it's tough. I think this game, it's a 1-point line for a reason, and I'll lean Buffalo at home because of the weary road travel.
Probably be a tie now because we said that. Oh God. Here's two teams that suck. The 1-1 Washington football team against the 1-1 Cleveland Browns. Browns are actually laying 7 in this game, which is a little high in my opinion. The over/under is 45. So Washington had a nice second half against the Eagles. It looked like trash last week in Arizona because they are. Cleveland got their dicks kicked in by the Ravens as expected, but then they were able to find a win last week, Thursday night, against the Bengals. The first thing that stands out to me here is both these teams are terrible, but Cleveland's a much more talented offense, whether you think that's going to actually translate to anything. And the Skins have a much more talented, at least front of their defense. Yeah,
and like we said last week, and the difference would be Kyle Murray running away from that Washington defenders, and he really did, where Carson Wentz couldn't escape that front line. That front line might swallow up Baker Mayfield, though. He's an undersized quarterback, not as mobile as Murray or half the other guys in the NFL, but he's really going to have to lean on his run. I expect Kareem Hunt, I expect Chubb, large doses. If they're going to win the game, they have to both almost hit 100 yards this week. You don't have to run that play action and protect Baker while he's running the play action, hit Odell for something deep every now and then. So I think that's the key to it. And I think their slight talent on offense wins that game. I would never have the Browns and lay 7 points. That's ridiculous. Obviously I'm not going to touch this game, but you know what? We're over here. Because like I said, imagine putting money in Baker Mayfield's hands. Even though he does this, nah, no, thank you. You might as well just do this. Poof, it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a masochist, you want to take the Browns and have to have them do something positive for you to win money. I mean, at that point, I think you're probably like, it's not good. And again, both of these teams, and it's kind of funny. And Joe brings it up, as far as Baker being brutal. It's not good. I mean, and this was the first overall pick in the draft, which frankly, I don't know. I mean, the top of that draft quarterback wise has not really panned out, minus Allen. To a point, I guess. I mean, obviously Lamar has been the best of the bunch, but if you're Cleveland, I mean, it doesn't seem that you're seeing the progression from Baker that you should be seeing by now in his career. I mean, you really should be seeing a much better look to what this guy does.
Listen, I'm not a Baker Mayfield fan at all, but if you look at what we're doing here, as you mentioned earlier, with quarterbacks in different systems, this is just another year and another system for Baker Mayfield. So I think Kevin Stefanski, what we said in preseason, he has the right model to make Baker Mayfield an effective quarterback, and I think that's what we're saying. It's handoff, play action. If you're going to have Baker Mayfield go out there and sling it like he's back at Oklahoma, it's not going to work out in the NFL because he's just going to make too many mistakes too many times. But if you limit his options and everything like that, he's going to be fine. And let's see how we finish the season at. But I think this is a line where it's a little bit too inflated, and the offensive line for Cleveland is going to have to win this game by running the ball and protecting Mayfield when they have to limited throw.
Yeah, I if I'm betting the game, I'm going to take Washington, but I also don't want to bet the game. I wouldn't want to bet your money betting the game. I'd rather burn the money, actually. I think I probably feel better about that.
That's one of the biggest mistakes that people come across all the time is they feel like they have to bet every game. If you don't like a game, don't bet it. Don't bet it. That's where people lose money. I mean, there's money to be made every Sunday, every Saturday, but don't bet games that you just to bet them. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tennessee takes their 2-0 record to Minnesota, where they're 0-2. They're only a 3-point favorite in this game on the road. Over/under is 49.5. You're talking about a team with a must-win game today. It's got to be Minnesota. It's got to be Minnesota because at this point, and we talk about the Eagles, but at this point, if you fall 0-3 in a division where, you're going to be at least 2 games behind the 2 teams ahead of you, still, it's not good. And I'm not going to attribute Minnesota being 0-2 to anything as far as, losing Stephon Diggs. I don't think that's been the issue. I think Kirk Cousins has not played very well at all. color me surprised, right? But I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with Minnesota. They got a home game here. What's your read on this?
Well, I think it comes simply down to Minnesota's defense has been absolutely horrible. They lost Everson Griffin, who hasn't really been lights out for the Cowboys, although he's been a little bit better. But, they just lost Anthony Barr for the season. They only carry 2 safeties on an already putrid secondary. What's their defense? Defensive end that's out.
I don't know.
Shit. Anyway, he's not ready to return again. Damn, I'm drawing a blank.
I'm going to look it up right now. Vikings injury report.
See, Anthony Barr is out for a pec. Oh, Hunter's out. Daniel Hunter's out.
Oh, Daniel Hunter. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So you're looking at a team that you lost your pass rushers. You're in flux really. And if they can't stop anybody, they can't use that power running game that they want to get behind with Dalvin Cook. So you're looking at, and then on the other side of the coin, you have Tennessee, right? No AJ Brown, but they for the last couple of weeks, but Tannehill, he threw 4 dimes last week.
Jonnu Smith's been big.
Jonnu Smith is going to feast today. Adam Humphries is going to feast today. So I really like those guys. If you're in like daily fantasy or you need somebody in a flex spot, and Tannehill has made the right plays. Derrick Henry, I mean, he's been underwhelming. He doesn't even look that great when you watch him rush.
Mm-hmm.
So,
he had a lot of carries last year. We always say this. I mean, your workload the year before into next year, even in this crazy year, I mean, it's hard to maintain that. And they gave him a lot of money. And that's just, I think, frankly, they paid him for what he did versus what he was going to do. I get it. I wouldn't personally have done it. But.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the whole, was it 350 carry rule or something like that from way back when in the early 90s. But you're looking at, I think whatever team is able to jump out to a lead is extremely advantageous today, whether it's a fumble, turnover, something stupid, screwy on special teams, whatever. If a team gets down 14 points or 10 points in that area, then they have to kind of start forcing stuff in the second half. And I think that doesn't really bode well for either teams. Tennessee, people have been underestimating them. I'm going to stick with Tennessee. I think they don't have any problem scoring against the Vikings, and I think the Vikings offense is a little out of sorts, even though how bad their defense is.
It is. And after paying Cook all that money, you got to think that they should have – I mean, last week, they really looked pretty terrible against the Colts. And the Colts are not a bad defense by any stretch, but you got to look better than that. I mean, if you're going to lose with some dignity, for the love of God. I mean, that was
in week 1, the Colts secondary looked absolutely awful.
Pretty terrible, right? Yeah.
They couldn't capitalize. And Malik Hooker got hurt that game and is out for the season.
Uh-huh.
Fellow Achilles tendon ruptured. There was 2 last week. So my partners in crime, I don't know what they call guys who have the same injuries, but I know it's not Eskimo brothers. Anybody out there's a.
How are you feeling?
I feel like shit, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm just going crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm here.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? We mentioned the Jets being terrible and the Colts being pretty good. Actually, that's incorrect, so I have to fix that.
I was just about to say they lost week 1, so.
Yeah,
listen, this isn't Fox News.
That's me doing it at 11 o'clock at night, not thinking. So listen, the question here is not if the Colts are going to win, but how much are they going to win by? Because that is the biggest number of the weekend, minus 11.5 with an over-under of 44. Jets stink. Everybody's hurt.
Yeah.
How's that number for you?
That number's fine. I think Jets roll. I think the Colts roll through them, literally run through them with Jonathan Taylor, who think he has a big game, hits the 100-yard mark easily. This is a game where Phillip Rivers isn't going to have to be forced to make plays. If he just plays within himself and in the offense, which sometimes that's not always his strong suit, he kind of wants to, freelance a little bit sometimes and make difficult throws where his arm can no longer handle. If they just plays within himself and keeps the game plan simple, they run right through the Jets.
Yeah, there's not really a lot to analyze here because one team is pretty terrible. I mean, that's the end of the day. And they're going to be in contention for that number 1 overall pick, and they're going to have a decision to make at that point. But on top of the fact that they're terrible when they're healthy, you get injuries all over the place. So, no Bell, a couple of the receivers are out. I don't see any. I mean, the Jets. I don't know if the Jets scored 10 points in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for them to score. I mean, Brashard Perriman's out, Jamison Crowder is out, Le'Veon Bell's out. Herndon, who was everybody's fantasy sleeper, at tight end position, he's done absolutely nothing. So I mean, Sam Darnold I'm a little bit higher on than most people, but he doesn't have much to work with, and he made actually a couple of decent plays last week, but a couple of decent plays isn't going to beat a team that's just going to be beating you up when there's nobody else around you. I mean, you got guys like Barrios and them guys running in the secondary trying to catch passes. It's not NFL.
No, I agree. So Colts win. I also think the Colts cover a sizable number. Neither here nor there. Carolina takes their 0-2 record across country to meet the Chargers, who are 1-1. Chargers -6.5. Listen, the Chargers could actually be 2-0, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because they had the Chiefs, they had a lead. They couldn't hold it because the Chiefs are the Chiefs. But if not for 3 consecutive field goals in overtime, this may be a 2-0 team. And again, Justin Herbert played very, very well in a game that he wasn't supposed to play, and he's playing again today. That's got to be you got to be feeling pretty good about that if you're a Chargers fan.
And if you have anybody in fantasy on a Chargers team, because I mean, he actually put some life into Keenan Allen last week, and so that's going to be something interesting to watch too. Yeah, I mean, this is a big line for a rookie quarterback. Although it is at home, is this really just more of a testament to the defense and how they played against Kansas City last week? But because Anthony Lynn made a horrendous call on not going for it on 4th and 1. I mean, you have to try to win that game. If you have the opportunity to beat Kansas City, you need to beat them. I mean, that's just you can't punt in that situation and give the ball back to Pat Mahomes. Like, you have to look across, who's on the other sideline sometimes. But with that said, I think without McCaffrey, I mean, they're still recovering, the Panthers, on trying to have a potent offense without McCaffrey now. You're going to see some Robbie Anderson this week. Mike Davis is the new back there who got some decent touches, who, everybody's favorite darling in fantasy this week. I think that San Diego defense will shut them down enough. And, I don't think San Diego covers. I think the game's going to be a little bit closer. So I'll take San Diego. It's probably about a 4-point win.
You keep saying San Diego like they're playing San Diego.
Yeah, I know. Listen. I'm friggin' old. I still have memories of Dan Fouts throwing the rock.
That's fine. I think I might feel differently about this game if McCaffrey was in. I don't think everybody's on this Mike Davis bandwagon, and maybe he will get some decent numbers for a fantasy player. But I mean, he was such a big. Christian was such a huge part of their offense that to say that they're going to be a semi-competitive team, without him, I think is very, very hard. It's very, very hard to say.
Yeah.
I can't see it.
I mean, plus, you're bringing in Mike Davis, who, let's not pretend ourselves like he was some, all-pro running back that, is now just fitting the offense and not missing a beat. Austin Eckler, he's going to have a big game, against that defense who isn't very good either. So, so you got a team who has to score that don't have their offensive weapon, their best offensive weapon. So, I mean, it might be a long day for that Carolina offense. But, the Chargers and Justin Herbert, I think Herbert gets his first win today, and I think Chargers win probably by about 4. Not a game I would bet, though.
What are your thoughts on Carolina as a potential landing spot for Trevor?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think, even though they signed Bridgewater, it's not a contract that they can't get out of. I mean, for a talent like Trevor Lawrence, I mean, especially in that area. I mean, you have a Carolina team and you have a Clemson kid who's just takes the South by storm. It would be a perfect fit.
I think it'd be a phenomenal fit, and that would speed that thing up in a big way. Phil wants to know, maybe take it under 46 in the Bills game. I actually lean a little bit over. Actually, I don't really like it either way, but if I had to lean one way, I think I lean a little bit over.
I would go under, but life's too short to bet under, so I'm not touching that game. But I could definitely see it. Listen, LA could get off the bus pretty slow. first
Bills game. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. You're right.
That was the Bills game, right?
Yeah. No. See, now I'm doing the LA thing now.
Okay. Hey, listen, man, these teams gotta stop moving around.
It's so stupid.
But yeah, so so I think the Rams get off to a sluggish start a little bit offensively, and I think it's going to wind up a close game, but I think it might be a slow. So the under in the first half, absolutely love, but I think if I had to go the other way, I'd take the under for the game as well, which is something I normally do not do.
Next up, Tampa Bay takes their 1-1 record over to the Denver Broncos, who talk about a team that's got some injuries. I mean, you lost Von Miller early in the year. Now you're down Drew Lock. You're down Cortland Sutton. A lot of problems there for a team that I thought might be a better team with a worse record this year. Tampa Bay kind of righted the ship a little bit last week against Carolina. That was a big Fournette game. We'll see if Arian sticks with Fournette. I'm starting Fournette over Ronald Jones in a league where I have both. I'm sure that means Ronald Jones has 3 touchdowns. But I don't see a situation where I think Denver can really stay in this game because Tampa's just better than they are. And without the quarterback, with I don't care how much you're going to run the ball with all these running backs that you have. I think Phillip Lindsay may or may not play, but obviously, Melvin Gordon is still doing just fine. It's a lot. I think it's a lot for a Denver team to ask when you're missing so many guys. And Tampa's got to, if they intend to challenge for this division title, they really need to make sure that they're keeping pace with the Saints. So I like Tampa in this game. I'll lay the 5.5, but I'm curious what you think here. Brady still hasn't looked very good. And I don't know if that's temporary, if that's an adjustment period because there's no preseason, but I don't know.
Well, here's the thing with this game, Brian. Let's forget this is the first time that he's going to have all his receivers. Godwin's back today. Evans is back today. O.J. Howard, who is trying to be is the reclamation project, personal reclamation project of Tom Brady as well. I think that's what's getting lost. And hey, what's all this Gronk, stuff? How come he isn't spiking the ball and doing all his antics? Because he's not getting the ball. It's because they're trying to force the ball to O.J. Howard. Scotty Miller too is somebody that they like out there. So I think now is the first game that you see with Tom Brady with all his weapons. It's an opponent that he's very familiar with. It's a place that he's pretty familiar with as well. There's no, mile high maniac crowd or anything like that to actually have to worry about. I will give Melvin Gordon especially credit for how they handled that Steelers defense. I mean, he looked like a damn good running back against Pittsburgh, who we all expected them to shut them down, whether he was healthy or not. I think Noah Fant is somebody who gets open a day a lot, has a big game on the other side of the ball. Like I mentioned earlier, KJ Hamler, if they're going to do something through the air, he's going to have to be able to stretch the ball out. But at the end of the day, I think Tampa wins this. I think they win it pretty easily. They'll get a quick lead behind the arm of Brady, and your boy Fournette and or Ronald Jones will just power home.
Do you downgrade what your expectations are of the Bucs receivers in the scenario where they could be running the ball in the second half?
Well, the problem is I haven't had them as a huge upgrade to begin with. I'm not a huge Godwin fan. I think he's just a big step below the other guys that are in the top receivers out there, which none of them are really playing. Devontae Adams, all these guys are hurt anyway. And I'm a big fan of Mike Evans, but at the same time, there's only one ball to go around. So, I didn't have them kind of lights out. And I think what people are seeing now is I think there was a big false narrative that, you were going to see, Tom Brady put up 45 points every week, even though that's something that did. Their defense is young and it's improving. And I think Brady knows, if you watched them the last few years in New England, Brady knows how to win with that formula. So, there are obviously some balls to that have to be had, but you're looking at a team right now who's just emphasizing winning. And I think that's what they go into Denver. That's what they do today. And they think they win this game by 10 and cover easily.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I just think you're asking a lot of a guy like Jeff Driscoll to, go up against Tom Brady and play a great game. But having said that, I think that if you're a Tampa fan, I know Mike Galletta's on the show today, but I do think that you got to see more out of the offense. And we're going to see if with the full complement of weapons, what Brady can do. And again, it's not like these Denver Broncos teams are the same as defensively that they've been in previous years. So I agree with you. Bucks take it. Bucks cover. last year, these two teams played to a tie, to my recollection, in week 1. And then everything went downhill for the Lions after that. The 2-0 Cardinals, which are one of the more impressive teams in the league so far this year, host the 0-2 Detroit Lions. 5.5-point line over-under is 56. That's the second biggest over-under of the weekend. And obviously the story is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's had a phenomenal start to the season. They have been really, really good, really, really quick. When San Francisco got a win, they took care of business against Washington. Again, I know you weren't necessarily on the Cardinals bandwagon to start the year, but what have you seen so far, and are you still in that position?
No, I think the Cardinals kind of are showing us pretty much what we thought they were going to be as far as an extremely talented team on offense. Defensive was where we had the questions because they were absolutely dreadful last year, and I don't think any of the teams that they played so far really tested that defense. This game right here, they might test them a little bit. Kenny Galladay's back. Matt Stafford can put up some numbers, and it's a high-scoring game for a reason. One thing that really lends to Arizona excelling, Kyler Murray especially, Hopkins especially, and I think both of them have huge games, is, the secondary of Detroit is awful. I mean, they looked bad against Mitch Trubisky. Imagine what Kyler Murray is going to do to them. One of the reasons is they play more man defense than any team in the league. And when you don't have the talent to play man defense, playing man defense more than anybody else might not be the best strategy. So our buddy Matt Patricia, who is another one who we kind of always struck their head how, hey, how's he have a job? So, you guys are betting, hey, you want to take anything you can out with Kyler Murray. You want to take Kyler Murray rushing. Because one thing, when they're playing man defense and you got a rushing quarterback that could run the ball, they're going to be following them, clearing the zone. And Murray might take off for a huge run today. Huge run. So I like Cardinals in a shootout as the line indicates. Probably a little closer, because I'm a little higher on Matt Stafford than other people are, and I'm not sold on the Cardinals defense. I'll lay the 5, but I think it's probably going to be it might be. We're talking about points, 38, 32 games, something like that. It's going to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, again, I'm not a Lions guy whatsoever. I think Matt Patricia is another guy who's going to find himself on the outside looking in at the end of the season. Probably should have been that way last season. But Arizona's looking good. If they get to 3-0, again, that's a tough division. But given the extra playoff team, I really think it's going to be hard for them to kind of blow that. Again, they're playing a last place schedule, so that's a good thing.
And the 49ers offensive injuries, that helps them out big time.
The door is opening wide for the Cardinals for sure.
And defensive injuries too.
Probably one of the more. This might be. Well, I guess I couldn't say that because the next 3 games I feel are the games of the weekend. So we'll actually look at them each individually. Cowboys 1-1, go to Seattle 2-0. Seahawks are laying 4.5 in this game. Over/under is 56.5. That's the highest line of the weekend. Cowboys should be 0-2. That's a fact. They should be 0-2. Well, let me take that back. They could still be 1-1 because they should have beat the Rams and probably obviously should have lost last week to Atlanta. Seattle's 2-0. The defense does not look good whatsoever in those wins. So great quarterback matchup, even though I don't like Dak. The numbers are there, and Russell Wilson's probably the MVP of the league right now if you're going to make your vote, which he actually's never been even nominated for. It's in Seattle, which is not the same as it's been. We're both Cowboys fans. Can we objectively call this game?
Absolutely. Listen, I think we objectively called it last week, and that's kind of what it is. I know there's one of your favorite terms is cheerleaders. And there's a lot of cheerleaders out there, and I don't think either me or you are kind of fall in that category in any kind of sport. Sometimes, you want to root for your team, but, you have to look at the reality of the situation. Seattle, listen, there's no 12th man. That's empty stadium. So they don't have that advantage. What that defense really let us know a lot about, as we talked about in the Patriots game, is they made Cam Newton look pretty good. They were going to be pretty effective, and Cam Newton has none of the weapons that Dak Prescott has at his disposal. Knock on wood, everybody except the offensive line is pretty healthy, and we lost Blake Jarwin, but I think Schultz, is a good enough backup to come in there and contribute. They play a lot of high safety in Seattle. That means a single safety out high. And one of the things that Dallas specializes is getting vertical. So they could get vertical with Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. So if they get vertical, that really attacks the secondary's weakness in Seattle. I mean, Cam was a little bit able to expose it last week with guys like Edelman. So imagine what these a little bit more physically gifted receivers can do against it. So I like Prescott to be extremely successful. But now here we go on the other side of the coin. Seattle is Dallas going to get a stop this game? That's a huge question. Is Dallas going to get a stop this game? And Awuzie got hurt last week. I mean, it's just injury after injury in the secondary. It's their defensive line hasn't been able to get any kind of pressure. So I don't know if they're getting a stop.
Ton of injuries for the Cowboys. I mean, and that's just the reality of it. I mean, you're missing big pieces. And on the offensive line, your linebackers, now your secondary. This is a very good Seattle team. I think the line's a little high, though. I mean, I think the value here, frankly, would be to take Dallas outright because I think that Dallas can win the game. I mean, Seattle's not a team that's unbeatable, as you saw last week, where a Patriots team who I think is not as good as Dallas, easily could have won this game at the end. So.
And they had a momentum win against Atlanta too. I mean, they could, they're feeling pretty confident with that comeback. I mean, a huge comeback in Atlanta last week. I mean, that could spur them to win this game. Yeah,
I mean, that's what you take out of it. I mean, the passing offense has been fine. I think Lamb's done. I think Gallup's numbers are actually like if he scores a touchdown or two here, you like him a lot more. So I think that's going to come over time. But it's a very good offense.
And it's crazy that we haven't even talked about Ezekiel Elliott. And
right. I mean, again, offensively things are fine. I mean, now. I mean, not in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about that offensive line getting him time and allowing Elliott to run the ball. You're looking at you're going to have to score with them, and whatever team gets a stop or a turnover, I think that's going to be the difference. If I'm betting the game, I'm taking Dallas plus the 4.5. Absolutely. So you have it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be an entertaining game. I can't see it being anything less.
No, I agree. I think that the way these defenses have played, I think it's hard not to like that over.
Well, here's the thing too. What's Seattle's excuse for how bad they are on defense? They bring in Jamal Adams, and everybody was talking after the game the other day. Everybody was talking about, hey, Jamal Adams, he was everywhere. He was hitting. That's phenomenal. But they still gave up 400 yards to Cam Newton, was it, or 300 yards? A ton of points. He didn't make the impact that he needed. Dallas's problem is obviously they lost their leader on defense in Van Der Esch. I mean, there's still some talent there on the defensive line, but it's not being used correctly because they're still in preseason mode where they're trying to do this new defense. They're trying to take these 4-3 defensive ends and make them into 3-4 guys. I mean, it's a hybrid defense that they're not comfortable with yet. So I think they'll see improvement down the road once they get healthy and more comfortable with the defense. Seattle, they lost Irvin last week. I understand that, but they've been running the same scheme for quite some time, and they added Jamal Adams. So, if they get lit up by the Cowboys today, they have some serious questions.
Yeah, you paid a very, very heavy price to bring Jamal Adams in. So.
Yeah, I mean, how many Cowboys fans and posts did you hear about, oh, man, look at Jamal Adams, look at Jamal Adams. Well, yeah, but I'm not giving up La'el Collins and all those round picks and everything that they wanted. It's just – it would set your franchise back for, and truth be told, if you put Jamal Adams in our defense last week, guess what happens? Still as many points as probably they gave up.
Yep. Your thoughts on this question from Joe D'Angelo? He has Seahawks and Green Bay winning their divisions, either to win the NFC. Right now, I think Green Bay is the lead horse in the NFC, personally.
Green Bay defensively looked good. Aaron Jones ran the ball extremely well. I was high on Seattle going into the season. That's why I'm kind of questioning their defense right now. I think Seattle does win that division, but we'll have to see what kind of product that New Orleans is putting on the field, what kind of product that Tampa Bay is putting on the field to begin this discussion. Because if Seattle can't stop anybody, it's not going to be they're not going to make it to the NFC.
In most weeks, a Cowboys-Seahawks game is the game of the week, but the two primetime games this week are both absolutely fantastic. Green Bay takes their 2-0 record on Sunday Night Football to the Superdome to face the 1-1 New Orleans Saints. Saints are laying 3.5 in this game. The over-under is 53. So, as I said just now, Green Bay, I think, has been the best team in the NFC to this point. Saints won in Week 1 at home against the Bucs. They lay a bit of an egg last week in Vegas at the opening there of the Death Star. Again, two of the top teams in the NFC for sure. But I don't. Again, it's an aging quarterback matchup. Not quite Brady Breeze, but it's up there. I think for me, without Michael Thomas in this game, that's a problem. Drew Brees does not look good without having Thomas in the game.
I don't know if that's just – I mean, Drew Brees hasn't looked good because he hasn't looked good. I'm not even equating it to Michael Thomas missing. I mean, that would get Brees an excuse. He was absolutely horrible last week. I mean, he missed throws to wide open receivers badly. And I don't care if that was Michael Thomas in that jersey or whoever else. I mean, you know, that's another reason why Michael Thomas doesn't get a ton of love, if you could see by some of the receivers. You know, I mean, there's mixed messages, you know, as far as people, you know, how good is Michael Thomas? I mean, yeah, he's a compiler of stats, but is he doing 5-yard dig routes? Is he doing whip routes, or is he actually stretching the field like a guy like Hopkins or Julio Jones does? So, I mean, I'm not going to attribute Brees' struggle and their offensive struggle for losing last week, because Brees, when you watched the football game, Brees looked bad. When there was throws that needed to be made, he didn't make them. That arm is shot. It's shot. I think one of the things that we talked about last week was, you know, Kamara's receiving in total yards, because he's going to be just catching a ton of balls. I mean, you know, I know some people don't like Alvin Kamara. I think he's overrated, but
some people are idiots.
Some people are idiots. But yeah, so you're looking at a I mean, that's going to be the check down Charlie in it, and if he can't make those check downs, I mean, it's not Emmanuel Sanders' fault that he didn't catch any balls when they weren't even near him. You know, Traquan Smith has looked good though. We'll give him that. He kind of stepped into that role for the short yardage role. But man, oh man, Brees looked bad, and that defense wasn't as good as we thought it was either.
No, and contrary to that, I think the Packers defense is still as good as it was last year. I'm a big fan of what they do there. I think the Packers are the better team in this game. If I'm betting the game, I think it's a field goal game, in which case I'll take the 3.5 and take Green Bay, because either way, I think I'm fine.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think Green Bay probably does win this outright. When you have the bad man and Aaron Rodgers on the other sideline, and you have look like he needs a little Benjamin Button treatment in New Orleans. I mean, let's not wait to see Jameis Winston warming up or Taysom Hill, because he looked bad. I hope he isn't as bad as he looked. Hopefully he was out doing blow and hookers and stuff in Vegas, but you know, and that's the reason for the layoff. But because I don't want to see somebody and a team that is supposed to be as good as New Orleans deteriorate so quick because of poor quarterback play. And I definitely don't want to see Jameis Winston throw the ball.
No. So here's the question. I'll ask you a question long term with this. Could he end up being the reason, Brees end up, after all this time, end up being the reason that he holds the Saints back?
That's a tough question, because a lot of times, you know, it's a good question. People immediately started equating Brees' situation to what Manning was doing in Denver, which the Denver running game and defense literally carried Manning to a Super Bowl. I don't know if this Saints team is capable of doing that. They're not carrying Drew Brees, who they're expecting to be accurate. That's the problem. Drew Brees is the most accurate quarterback in history throwing the football. Now you're looking at a guy depending on the accuracy, an offense that depends on the accuracy. You know, they're not built for a power running game. They're built for Drew Brees to make the right decisions and make the right throw. And if he's making the right decision, but if he can't make right the throw, he will be holding that team back.
Yeah, and it's crazy to say that, given where they've been over the past 10 years.
Yeah. So listen, I mean, personally, I'm just hoping that Drew Brees just had a bad game, and you know, he was just a little off. And sometimes, as you get older, that happens.
I like Green Bay in the game.
Yeah, I'll take Green Bay. Aaron
Jones looks stellar, and again, that's going to cost them some money if they want to keep him. But we will.
Yeah, A.J. Dillon's ascension has been a little bit overrated.
A little bit. Like nobody, PFF hated that pick.
Is there any pick that anybody on the Packers liked? I mean, you got such a good team in the Green Bay Packers, and you're showing the football field, and you got two of their top picks, Dylan and Jordan Love, not even contributed. I mean, that eventually catches up to you.
Monday Night Football is the game of the week this week. Quite possibly the two best teams in football. The 2-0 Kansas City Chiefs go to the 2-0 Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are laying 3.5. The over-under is 54. Let me drop some knowledge on you, Tony. You probably already know this without me telling you, but I'll just reinforce it for our viewers. So the Ravens have won 14 straight games. The Chiefs have won 8 straight, the two longest active win streaks in the NFL. The last time that two teams that have won 8 consecutive games or more faced off in the regular season was 1969. So it's been that long since it was the Rams and the Vikings. This is the 5th time in NFL history that a quarterback matchup between the league MVP and the Super Bowl MVP takes place. The Super Bowl MVP has won the last 4. That bodes well for Patrick Mahomes. This is a great game. I think, Monday night so often puts up stinkers and people end up like getting out of it.
Let me throw another tidbit, a little fact out there too that I came across. This is the first time in NFL history that 2 MVPs under 25 are facing off too.
How about that?
Yeah. I mean,
youth
are good. They got good quick.
Youth is definitely served here. This is going to be a great game. I believe it was last year where these two teams. It was last year. These two teams faced off in Kansas City, and the Chiefs held on to win that game. And it was again a similar matchup of these. You hear all these stats of number 1 defense, number 1 offense. Offense tends to win those games. I will tell you that I think the Ravens have looked more impressive so far this year. I will tell you that I haven't really seen the Chiefs, I think, at optimal.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs struggling against Los Angeles last week was a little bit of shock. I think we expected a little bit, even though Los Angeles and that defense has their number. I mean, it's just such a big talent differential. Now you're facing a team in Baltimore that has that little bit more talent, and they have a roadmap that LA presented on how to play Mahomes and them. And to that credit too, Mahomes didn't look that great last week either, as far as missing some throws and stuff like that. This game, if I'm betting, I'm taking Kansas City. I'm taking the Ravens because they're begging you with that 3.5 line to take Kansas City. I mean, give you the defending Super Bowl champs 3 and a hook. So that means they're thinking the Ravens. I think the Ravens running game is too much for Kansas City to withstand. I think Lamar Jackson makes the plays. He's been phenomenal on third down. He's been phenomenal out of the pocket. And these are all things that we see quarterbacks growing and things. So I'm taking the Ravens, and I'm actually going to lay the 3.5.
Not buying the hook, huh?
Well, I mean, if I was, I'm not. This is a game I'm not betting, but at the same time, if I wasn't going to bet, I'd definitely buy the hook.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'll say that of the 4 units in this game, I think the Chiefs' defense is the least impressive.
Absolutely.
So
that, man, this is almost a game you don't even want to pick. You just want to sit back and watch and see how
enjoy it. Yeah, you extrapolate that again. Lamar should have his way with them. The question then is can the Chiefs put up and it's the best. They're still the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Big try. I lean Baltimore as well. Because I think it is asking you to take the Chiefs and the points. But again, this is a game where it's going to get a lot of money because it's Monday night. I mean, that's the nature of a Monday night. People trying to clean up their Sundays, but. Yeah, it's going to be one of those games. It's the game of the year so far. It's going to be the game of the year probably for quite a while. Without really even looking forward to future scheduling. But let's just sit back and watch this one. I think this is going to be one of those games that is going to be really entertaining, tight, and I don't know. I mean,
I'm hoping for huge fantasy days for everybody who's out there.
Yep.
Mahomes goes off, Jackson goes off, everything like that. I'm hoping for no injuries. I think we need to hope this week. We need to hope for no injuries for anybody because you have so many star players that are out right now. I would hate to see something happen to any star on either team like this. And this is the AFC conference preview. I mean, I don't think there's any other way about it. I know a lot of people have Pittsburgh in there, and there's maybe every now and then, but I think how it looks right now, week 3. This is the preview of the NFC Championship.
Yeah, I completely agree. That puts a wrap to the week 3 slate, which is going to be fun. Hopefully you guys enjoy the games today. Tony, what do you think about fans of teams that can't spell their team's names?
Well, most of them were Eagles fans, but
kind of like this. You mean like this?
War over there in Minnesota, guys. That's right. Eagles, baby.
And he has them all on his fantasy team, as we've seen this today and outside the box.
That was ugly.
There's a lot of there's a lot of chef fans out there too. Yeah, there's a lot of chef fans out there. I think I seen a tattoo, floating around the interweb of somebody with a Chiefs fan.
Oh God, I love football. Guys, today's show, as all Sports Box shows, are brought to you by our friends over at Crowd Play. Check out their free app. You can win cash and prizes by predicting the outcomes of sporting events. There is no catch. There is no fee. It is completely free. Use our code THEBOX at sign up to get 10 free points. And here's a little more information about those guys. Crowd Play. Check it out. Tony, give me a hot take to end the show.
A hot take to end the show. Oh, man.
Give me like your shock pick. Give me like your shock pick that wouldn't shock you.
A shock pick that wouldn't shock me. You go. Give me a second.
Bengals outright.
Bengals outright. See, I don't know if that's a huge shock, though.
It would be around here.
No, here you go. This is listen. I sent this to you guys in Messenger. Jalen Hurts throws a couple passes today. That's my hot take. Jalen Hurts at plus 545 on DraftKings throws a couple passes today. For him attempted passes, it's 1. So I think you see him mixed into the offense a little bit today for the Eagles.
There you go. All right. So on behalf of Tony Quigley, I am Brian Attard. Thank you so much for watching the Week 3 preview of the NFL here on the Sports Box. Check out our schedule. We have shows most days. We'll be back Monday night at 7 p.m. with our Unsportsmanlike Conduct show. That's Paul McCree and Mike Velarde. Tuesday at 8:30 is myself and Mike Galletta on Highly Opinionated. At 10 p.m. is the new time slot for Total Degenerates. That's Paul Allen, Brian Hess, Ryan Havermail. Wednesdays at 7, Baseline Jumper with our friend Tony as well as Paul Allen, talking about everything in the world of hoops as we are getting close to the NBA final and LeBron finds his way there again. Wednesday night at 8:15, teeing off our golf show with Mike Galletta and Dave Cartwright. At 9 o'clock, the Eagles show, The Green Room with Chris Wilhelm and Paul McCree and special guests. We'll see if they're angry this week or not following a win or a loss. We'll see where that goes. Thursday at 7:30 is On Point, Matt Zuccarello, Brandon Gazzara. And then our newest show Friday nights at 9 is Sweet Tea, which is sports talk with a Southern twist. That is Garth Patrick and Noah Diebler. So on behalf of the boys, thanks for watching. Like, follow, share. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Join Outside the Box. It's a lot of fun. And thank you for your support.
Take care, bro.
Thank you for watching the Sports Box. Follow us on Facebook at Sports Box Show, Twitter at Sports Box Show, Instagram at The Sports Box Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our friends at Crowd Play. Download the free Crowd Play app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 points. See you next time.